Good morning and welcome to our Wednesday morning webinar at Miller Johnson. This morning we're going to talk about our Back to Work Guidance Resource Center. We decided to do this seminar after we had lots of questions, frankly, from businesses wanting to know more about exactly what this resource center is and what is in it. So we thought we would talk to you guys for 10 or 15 minutes and explain the concept of the resource center and also give you a better view of what's inside of it. For those of you who are watching the webinar from your computers, you can see I am currently logged on to the resource center and sharing my screen. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sarah Willey. I'm an attorney with Miller Johnson, and I'm part of our employment and labor team here at Miller Johnson, as well as our Team 19, which is our COVID team. And of course, that also means I've been spending lots and lots of time talking to employers and businesses about COVID-related concerns. A few weeks into COVID-19, our section and our COVID team began to realize that we had businesses with a huge need for new information and knowledge and materials. And quite frankly, that need was so gigantic, we realized that we had to come up with a new and different way to provide that information. We also realized that we had a number of businesses who needed the same information as others, and that that perhaps the way they were getting that information was not as cost effective as it could be. So that was the impetus for what we're now calling our Back to Work Resource Center. In short, what the Resource Center is it's our effort to gather and update everything businesses need related to COVID-19 and to provide it in a way that's much more cost effective than those businesses having to pay individually and call attorneys every time they need something. Okay, so that's in short. I sort of see it as a pooling of resources for legal services. Now, having said that, of course, our team continues to counsel clients all day, every day, continues to provide materials as they're needed, etc. But our vision really is that hopefully many businesses can subscribe to this resource center and get everything they need in a more cost-effective way and not have to pay Miller Johnson or attorneys every time. Okay, so that's the concept behind it. We set it up to be really a subscription-based service. And the reason is because we are constantly updating these materials. So we see this as one place where businesses can go to get what they need and know that everything up here is updated. Now you're probably thinking, Sarah can't be saying that right now because we have executive orders coming down every other day in Michigan. and I'm telling you, that is true. That's exactly what we're doing. So every time an executive order gets issued, we go through all of our materials in the Resource Center and we update them to make sure they are compliant, okay? I will say I've heard many people tell me that they're just overwhelmed with the amount of information that's being flooded into their email inboxes every day, and they just don't know where to start. Okay, so we do also see the Resource Center as perhaps being the one place where you can go and know it has what you need. I want to explain how to get it and how to pay for it. The resource center, as I mentioned, is we set it up as a subscription-based service, although businesses can pay upfront if they choose. That's not a problem. The idea is that it's a 6-month subscription, and the total is $1,750. The first month, I believe, is $500, and then the subsequent 5 are $250 a month. Businesses can pay either by invoice if they're a client, or by credit card. Of course, I've had lots of people who are in the resource center say to me, well, can't promise me, or I want to know that it's going to last more than 6 months. And I said, certainly if there's a need for all of this COVID information in 6 months, we will continue it longer than that as well. Okay. So that's sort of the foundation of it. And now what I want to do is walk you guys through what is in here so that you can get a view and understand whether this is a platform that's going to be a good fit for your business. Now, as I mentioned, you can also get anything in here from Miller Johnson and not subscribe, okay? And get billed individually for these materials and for phone calls to clients. That's fine too. I think, quite frankly, it's much more cost effective to use the Resource Center though, okay? So let's look first at the Forms, Templates, and Communications tab. So I'm gonna click on that. Here's what we have in here today. Now, first thing, notice all of these documents have dates after them. That's because that is when we last updated them, because there had been a legal change. So the first 2 documents here are documents that your organization may need to use if you have an employee who's tested positive for COVID. So you're probably aware that under Executive Order 97, you have to have a positive test protocol. And so this is part of that. So this is just by way of example, this is a draft letter to all employees that you can use if you have somebody who tests positive. Okay, and then we've done a separate letter, because it really is a different communication, that you would send to individuals who had close contact with somebody who tested positive. So that's an example of that. And you can see how the Resource Center works. All of the documents in here are in Word format, so that organizations can just take those, put on their letterhead, make changes they want, etc. You've got full access to all of them, and then they become yours. Other things to point out on this page are the health assessments. We've got 2 health assessments, one for a contractor and one for an employee. So again, Executive Order 97 requires any business with in-person operations to require employees to answer certain health questions, whether they have symptoms or whether they've been exposed. Another fun one that I thought I'd point out is, after our governor required all employees to wear face coverings, we began to get lots of questions about what to do if somebody doesn't want to wear a face covering or asks not to. And so we put together a checklist of legal considerations when somebody refuses or declines to wear a face covering. This is just an example of the things we add to the Resource Center that are dependent upon questions that we see businesses asking. So we're paying attention to that. And when we see patterns, we are adding materials to the Resource Center that employers can use for those purposes. You'll see on this page too, by the way, we've got the FFCRA posting and leave request forms here too that comply with the FFCRA. I'm not going to click on all of these things today because I do want to run through the other pages for you so that you can see them. So let's go to the next page, which is policies, checklists, and frequently asked questions. The first thing I want to point out is you'll see we've got COVID-19 preparedness plans, and we've got a general plan here, but then we have created separate plans for a number of different industries. Okay, so again, any business now with in-person operations has to have a COVID-19 preparedness and response plan that's compliant with OSHA's return to work guidance. Okay, so businesses can come in and get these plans and be all set with that requirement. This COVID-19 leaves of absence document is I think very helpful, and I wanted to point it out. I know it's a little small on your screen, but it's a good example of the things we're putting in the Resource Center. So what this is it lays out all of the common reasons somebody might be off work related to COVID, whether they have a confirmed case or symptoms, whether they're under quarantine because they've had close contact, whether they're in an at-risk category, whether they're caring for a family member, whether a school or daycare is closed. It lists all of those reasons at the top, and then down the left goes through all of the federal and Michigan laws and executive orders that could apply to each of them, and it tells you what rights they might have under those. Again, that covers a tremendous amount of questions that we're getting every day. So those are some examples of the things that are on that policies, checklists, and frequently asked questions page as well. We have a page that have all of the training videos that you might want. Again, Executive Order 97 requires businesses with in-person operations to train all of their employees. So we have recorded short videos, they're 10 to 15 minutes, that comply with all of the requirements in that executive order. And you can just show that video to your employees. Although not required, we have also recorded a supervisor training video that we think employers will find helpful as well. Okay, and those are just, you just click on those and they are yours then to use. Then finally, we've got a page we call additional information. We've organized this under headings of both Michigan and federal government. In the Michigan piece, one thing that I wanted to show you all that I think is really cool is we have a chart of all of the county health department requirements. So, sorry, it's going to open that up. There we go. So many counties in Michigan have their own additional requirements, particularly for employee health assessments. Okay, so businesses need to be looking not only to what Michigan is doing, but the counties in which they operate. And so we have a chart that lists and is updated every week with the local health department requirements by county. Okay, and you can see it's in alphabetical order here. And it goes and includes all of the counties in Michigan. It says exactly what the requirements are. It says how long they last, et cetera. And then it has links here to each of the orders. So that is the kind of thing that is readily available on our resource center, but could take a human resource individual hours and hours and hours to try to gather and get that information. We also, on the federal level, have two very, very helpful charts for those of you who have operations in other states. We've got a chart summarizing the stay-at-home orders and the status of them in every state. Okay, so that's this. Again, it's in alphabetical order and talks about what restrictions are in place and when they expire. And then we've got another chart that includes the reopening orders, because of course we started with the stay-at-home orders and then quickly realized that we needed one for reopening too, because thank goodness everything's starting to open back up. So we've got a second chart that has all of the requirements for reopening. It describes them and then has links to each of those orders as well. Again, incredibly valuable resource if you just want to quickly see what the status is, for example, in Tennessee. You can just pull up that chart and take a look. Okay, and then the last page is we have gathered materials by industry as well. And so far we've created pages for construction, for manufacturing, for office and retail, and for education. So I'll show you one of them. So for example, in construction, we've gathered a lot of materials that relate specifically to construction. Education, same thing, okay? So you can see this page, the Resource Center is really sort of a one-stop shop for everything you need, and also has a tremendous amount of legal materials that I think, I know are useful to businesses, okay? So that is our overview of the Resource Center for today. If you are interested in going in and learning more or subscribing, the address is resources.millerjohnson.com. If you forget that, you can also go to millerjohnson.com and you can see there's a link there. There's a button you can click on that'll take you to the Resource Center as well. You're also welcome to reach out to me, Sarah Willey at Miller Johnson, if you've got additional questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you all make good use of the Resource Center. Thank you.